Where do you want to start?
All right, I get to go outside. It is 6 p.m. All tonight's meeting order. First thing, public participation got off of the agenda. So I will move to amend the agenda and public. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of amending to add public participation, please say aye. All right.
Yes,
Okay. Were you an aye or an nay?
I was an I.
Okay, thank you. All right, public participation is added. So with that, I will move on to a public participation.
But I wanted to come and speak for two banks and for the Early family. And that was in conversation with them over a period of time. What they've done is the two banks, the Farmer State Bank and the new bank here, BCT, and the Early family all were donating to the advertising in the parks. But what it didn't say, it said advertising, it didn't say naming rights. And so they had asked that we come back and ask the board if that really meant naming rights. Does advertising mean naming rights? Because the document that we gave them was not specific on that. And by that, what they want to do is say, like the ball field that will be the Early family, that's the Early family ball field. So they want to know is if you advertised that there was going to be a ball tournament and the game was going to be played not at Park 3, but at the Early family park or at the BCT park or at the Farmers State Park, because that document didn't say naming rights, it said advertising, and they wanted to make sure it actually said naming rights. And I said I would come back and ask the park board if that's what you meant. So I'll open that up for discussion and I'll take back to them whatever answer you come up with.
Let's get that discussion now to miscellaneous.
I'm here for public participation. I'm Gina Reed. I want to express my thanks for everything the park board does. Parks are an extremely important part of our quality of life here in Cameron, and I think you do a lot with a little. But I do have an opinion on. Oh, do I need to? Oh, no, okay. I do have an opinion on the naming of the new park, and I am firmly in belief that it should be Somerville Park. And the reasons for this is that the land where the park will be is the old platted town of Somerville, which, as we know, was not eventually populated because it was in the wrong place for the railroad. But that is kind of where Cameron began. And we have kind of a tradition of naming parks for people or places or things. And I would say McCorkle Park, which is named for Mr. McCorkle, who was one of the very first founders of the town. There's Kelsey Park, which was named for the Mr. and Mrs. Kelsey, who were instructors there at Missouri Wesleyan College. And there's even Beavers Park, which was named, actually, there was a Mr. Beavers. And it's a long story of how that got turned into Beavers Park. But so I think that Somerville Park, especially considering we have McCorkle Park, I think that would just be a nice bookend to, Somerville Park would be a nice bookend to McCorkle Park. If you get it onto the GIS and all of that, and GPS and all of those, I think everybody will be able to find it. But having a nod to our railroad history, I think, is extremely important. So I appreciate your listening to me.
Anyone else?
We're from the old school here in Cameron, Historical Preservation Society. This is Rebecca McMullen. She's my farmer's market manager, and I'm Denise Maddox, office manager at the old school. So we've got a letter to present to you guys in favor of having the farmer's market at McCorkle Park.
Real quick. On behalf of the Old School Farmers Market, I would like to take this opportunity to share some information about our market and ask that the board approve our use of McCorkle Park for our 2022 season that will run from May through October. The Old School Farmers Market will be starting its 4th season. Over the last 3 years, the market's grown from just a few vendors the first year to approximately 15 to 20 vendors last year. Our vendors come from cities such as Weatherby, Stewartsville, St. Joe, Savannah, and Kidder, to name just a few. Our customers include locals that frequent the market each week and people from neighboring communities, those who make special trips due to the market, and even people passing through town and staying in local hotels. The Old School initially held the market in our parking lot. Last year, when our parking lot was resurfaced, excuse me, we were graciously offered the use of McCorkle Park. This was extended through the end of our season in October. Our vendors and the local community enjoy the market in the park. We only use the northwest corner, and yeah, it's just a nice atmosphere, you know, in the park, not sitting in a parking lot. The kids are playing, families can sit on the benches, chat with each other, you know, and just enjoy the green space. You know, we always went through, made sure everything was cleaned up prior to the market, after the market. Our vendors have been great about, using the space. And we would enjoy being able to use the park again this year. So we ask that you guys consider that. We just use one corner for a few hours on Saturday morning.
And a 90-degree asphalt parking lot.
I don't enjoy the squirrels dropping walnuts on my head, but it's just part of it.
It's actually kind of comical. Thank you.
I have a question for you. Can I correct this is a request to waive the rental fee, or is it,
That would be great.
I guess when you say you're asking us to consider you guys using the park, is that what you're referring to, or just that we approve this application?
Well, the use of the park and to either waive the fee or work on something that would be agreeable to both.
I just want to make sure I understood what the
Yeah.
specific request was.
The fees that we charge mainly cover our farmers market insurance that we carry. So there's not a lot of wiggle room as far as a fee, but if we could work something out, or if you'd be gracious enough to waive it.
Okay, we do have this as a topic on the agenda a little bit later. So we'll probably ask you some questions. Appreciate it. Anyone else for public participation? Here you up. All right, Seeing no additional, we will move on to approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes in front of us right now. Start with Thursday, January 27th, or you have a copy in front of you.
Yes.
All right. I have already reviewed these. Does anybody else have a chance to look through? Do we have a motion to approve? Is there a second? Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving January 27th meeting minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes approved. Moving on to February 15th. Any questions? I'll make the motion to approve as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving February 15th minutes as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Five in favor, zero opposed. February 15th minutes are approved as presented. Moving on to staff update. Steve, I believe that's you.
I'm just going to do a real fairly quick rundown of the construction we have going on. Let's see. This is the community park update. Basically, we are about 30 days behind due to the frost in the ground and the mass grading that's behind. So they've moved their schedule around a little bit to do some building construction, but some of the grading and some of that stuff is just behind. Still looking at, they worked in enough time in their main contract. I still think our completion date will be pretty close to what it was. But as far as if you look at the timeline, they are a little bit behind. What you have here is the change orders that essentially Vireo took the 4 different change orders and lumped them all into one main change order. The change order 1 is just for CP construction. It was removing, I think there's a picture here. Yeah. Removing concrete that they didn't realize was buried. They had to dig deeper, essentially dig deeper than what they anticipated. So that was $6,124. Yes, it was, they have to build a wall here, a retention wall. And when they were digging, they just kept hitting more and more concrete. I don't know if you guys have been out. This is McElwain Drive. So what? Ashland, yes, sorry. Whoa, yeah. Anyway, they needed to dig down further to build the wall that was needed. Northland, it is Northland Drive. Yeah. You know. Change order 2. This is kind of I think this is the fiber one. No, this is the one that was agreed upon prior to my involvement, but it's basically to do some grade work coming in to the new park, to kind of build up and seed and make it a more aesthetic entry coming in. Change order 3 was with Herner. Oh, the water line needed kickers. So for pressure, that, I guess that was missed in the initial, and Zach, our water superintendent or water utility director, recommended that being added so we wouldn't have water main breaks. Yeah, the last one is another unexpected one. I guess they're all unexpected, but when they were putting the sewer line in, they ran into an unmarked fiber line. So instead of stopping what they were doing and contacting us, they lifted the fiber line and trenched underneath it. So those were the 4 main changeovers that we had to approve last week. And I know this is kind of going to be one other topic that was brought up is the concession stand area. Nick Nye is their construction foreman that's out there, or I don't. He was away and he put another foreman in charge and came back to the concession stand being a complete 180 from what the design was. We found that out a day before we were scheduled to meet with Herner, Vireo. But basically it's supposed, per the design, it was supposed to face kind of a northeast, but they'd already stubbed in all the electrical, water, sewer, started the blocks on all the walls, exterior walls, complete 180. So during that meeting, they were super apologetic for one thing. They offered us what staff thought was probably a pretty fair offer, and that was to continue on with the construction with it facing south. The original plans called for an awning to be extended out over the concession stand sales area. So they're going to continue with that. But that'll face to the south. But they offered to build another one facing the north. So essentially we have shade structures on the south and the north. Let's see if I can't. I'm sorry, I don't. We do have our Vireo reps here that can kind of help with this and jump in whenever Larry, do you have I meant to print them off, the restroom additions, and I know you emailed them to me, and okay. Okay.
Area for so hopefully it was a 330 built right here. The overall function and the final space really fun. They will, as part of that is to building that extension. We also agreed to add additional restrooms, 1 year old and then
I think in the grand scheme of things, when all 5 fields are built, it won't be a huge impact, but I do realize that it was obviously a pretty big mess up on their end, but I feel like at least this way we are gaining. I mean, we gained extra facilities inside and another shade structure.
So the shade structure will that be as expected, we just extension of the roof.
Yeah.
Freestanding.
Right.
I know we looked at a couple different roof designs. One of them was a flat So my knee-jerk reaction is that sure seems to separate concessions from the facilities that we have now. And constricts the original, the design layout had significantly more open concrete plaza space out in front of the concessions bay. And reversing it in place certainly constricts the available space down there. Larry, Steve, what's your thoughts on that? I don't know what the business on that, but essentially, this part would also be no concrete is going to be extended, it's just a roof over. There is existing concrete plaza on the southwest side, another overhang. I show it as 22 feet in the corner of the building, straight line on the southwest versus 44 feet up to a grass turf area and another roughly 20 feet. It's not quite cutting it in half, but coming close. Cutting it in half. These are going to find planted areas over time. The turf in the middle, and I would expect in this scenario that would probably happen more quickly to the south, just as looking forward to the first big event we have there in between games, a big rush on the concession stand. That's a lot of people standing there.
But having that awning on the backside as an additional shade structure, we'll put picnic tables and things underneath there to where when they do get their concessions, they can go to the north side. And I mean, it's not ideal, but I feel like the decision was made to allow Herner to continue on with construction. So we didn't slow them down anymore. Financially, it was a win for the city and for the parks. I just, we talked to them about it, but they are not responsible for the building construction of any like standing structures. It's just grade work and things like that. So no, they are not responsible for the inspection of the buildings. Our city inspector did catch it, but he caught it the same day that they notified us about it anyway. So it wasn't enough time to actually make a change. Steve, did you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think that add to this, I was there at the update when we went through all of that. And there are certainly two ways to look at it. We had a long and lengthy discussion. The bottom line was the consensus of that group was to leave it the way it is. But I want to give you the two positions of it and why we got to that position. Admittedly, it was a mistake, and they knew it was a mistake, and they apologized for it up front. Well, having said that, we have two choices. One, you can tear it out, reorient it, and move it back again. And that would take time and money, and I think the figure that was given was $20,000. The alternative, and the other thing is to leave it the way it is. And the advantage to that is not only you have to tear it out, but in the future, when you end up building 2 more ball fields there, then you have an oriented direction to facilitate those 2 ball fields. So the real question is, if you want to tear it out and have a facility
20, the first one isn't the directional points, it's the available, it's the positioning within the open space. And the part of this building that we expect people to congregate on is in front of the concession window, which was put at the center of the complex in the middle of the largest open concrete space for a reason. That's my concern with it is, it's not the orientation so much as it is the combination of orientation.
I have a question, Steve. What were the improvements on the inside of the restrooms? I think I missed that detail earlier.
It's the addition of one urinal and one toilet, and that's pretty much it. It was a change order that they'd started the meeting asking us about if that was something because now would be the time to do that, and we worked that into the cost of their orientation issue.
And the background on that, the initial design of the building, we left an empty bay for those extra fixtures, but with the plan to not include them in the initial build, just for a little bit of cost savings. And the expectation that we could add those later as the whole deal got filled out. So that's the reason that they weren't in the original plan.
And do we know the financial value of those concessions that they're offering? Or approximate value?
Yes, so for the additional line, roughly 20,000, and then for the additional toilet and urinal, about 6,200, so total of 26.
I think the urinal and the toilet we already discussed the last meeting, that they were doing stuff in, and then apparently city staff was going to install those that, one of our costs, I know is a lot less. Like I think it was under $1,000 or something.
That could
And then
be,
we're just gonna have to shut it out and get it ready, so it's $6,200 on the toilet and the urinal. So that was in the discussion.
mhm.
Thank you.
Well, at this point, we have approved them to move ahead. If we want to change that, I mean, we can. That is something that if this board wants to move that direction, we can do so. But we need to do it. We need to vote on that tonight, and then we could reach out to them tomorrow, and if that's what we want to do.
So Larry and Steve, you guys are, I guess I don't know how much of it you personally did versus other staff in your office, but the Bureau as a whole laid all of this out and looking at those dimensions, going back to the just open available plaza space and the layout concepts of concessions in the center versus offset to the side. Where does all that come into play? World of landscape architecture. Yeah.
So we can design the plaza space for concessions on the north side. The concrete was finished all so there was a little bit of now that we fix this way, there'll be a little less there, but we still have this area. But as you finish these, it will literally be once you finish. Or if we have additional money in the project, perhaps go ahead and finish this closer to where that backstop would be, and it would be
And, it would be the same on the roof. North end, as you have drawn right now, there would be 12 feet of overhang on the north side, so 12 feet.
Will be-
Like underneath part of the overhang.
Yes, yes. And so here you could have an overhang.
And then, I guess I'd have to draw it out, then you're getting, is that getting too close potentially to ball field number one? The part of the straight west field, and that farther south, you're creating a pitch point there, between backstop in the corner.
You know, I've been around a lot of different complexes. And, you know, this one's gonna be the ideal field for your concession. Once people start using it out, they're not gonna realize. Gonna know that the additional space here is area, on the north side of the shade, and they're gonna migrate to that area. I was more concerned about if you walk in, you see the family restaurant. I think it's probably a good thing. If you're going there with your kid, the family restaurants are right there. And you'll see the umpire room, and then on the flip side, you have to walk around and every seven members.
I don't think the orientation of the restroom doors really makes that much difference.
Yeah, no.
I have other questions for you while you're talking now, I already forgot.
You want me to go back to see what
Again, it doesn't really matter what time you go to, figure out where the bathrooms are, and figure out.
once you go once, you're gonna know where it's at.
And to that point, in the grand scheme of things, it's worth an extra month if it is right. Versus part of the consideration for moving forward as is right now is the potentially delay things a month. And I guess to me, if an extra month is what it takes to get it right, I'm not concerned about the extra month. Do you have an estimate for what the dollar value of the actual remove and start over would be? It's probably an estimate value. That's why Daryl's advocating here and be skeptical of listening to their numbers. Is that something that you agree with those financial estimates, or does it seem one is inflated and the other is inflated today?
If they move the place on them to do stuff at their expense. If that value is 20,000, I can't say that it is or it isn't.
I guess what I'm thinking is if we can see to leave it as is, then potentially ask for some additional concession from them. If, let's just throw numbers out there, if it's gonna cost them 50,000, then if we ask for 40,000 in concessions, that's still a benefit to them, and it's a benefit to us. So I'm just trying to get a feel for, I don't know construction costs and what all of this will cost. I'm just trying to get a handle on it. If this is from a strictly dollar value, if this is a fair trade.
they just wanted to do the overhang, and I brought up the additional restroom portion, and I even tried to get one of these change orders added in, and they weren't going for the third, the extra change order, but they were okay with the adding the urinal and the toilet and.
One other option I would possibly think that I guess myself looking at it. What would they cost them where they put together overhang, just put a concession stand on the side?
I think they would have to, that ultimately would have to reconfigure the entire inside to do that.
I think Chris is saying, add another bay.
Yeah.
On the
Oh.
far end.
Where they're gonna go that road, so that
Well,
main pole just put a concession stand right there.
Or potentially expand that concrete farther southwest to give that extra little bit of cushion.
I think they'd be more inclined to do that, add in the extra concrete than they would adding a whole nother concession stand on the north side.
Well, eventually, part of those deals are gonna have, you know, the other side of whatever. Not every deal is gonna be on the same side.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not concerned about orientation. If they had rotated at 180 and shifted it the other direction to where it was still placed better, then I would be far less concerned about it. But as it is, it's 180 and it's going to just shift the entire structure southwest essentially. So instead of being there.
You're saying extend the concrete south and between down between.
Yeah, extend that pad down that way, the plaza part,
Like to the north.
farther to the southwest to give some extra cushion around the outside of the building. I mean, we don't want for the first big tournament to have a rainstorm and have 150 people lined up in a swampy muddy mess right there. Because they're all trying to do the concessions and they got lifted and not space.
I mean, we can definitely contact Herner and see if they'd be willing to modify the, I can't see them adding the concrete and adding the extra restroom components. Now they might, we could maybe remove the restroom component of the piece and add more concrete. That might be something they would do.
The alternative is to say, okay, tear it out. Put it around.
Exactly, but
I was gonna say, I think we had to go in. Myself.
I think the problem with some of these is staff has to make decisions without completely being able to involve the park board with every step. And
That's my question. Why would they use the UPC saying that that was a mistake, like, oh, that's what. I know it's kind of. Oh my gosh, I think that.
I don't think it's
Then 10 years, what's not 2 weeks?
Out of concrete and doing on. What kind of, is that a check and balance in place to keep happening again? Or I mean, very frustrating.
no, yes, we informed them that we were all pretty frustrated, and Nick actually said he was going to move to Cameron and for the rest of the project and make sure it went as.
That person that you made a mistake is no longer. Because trailer outside. Working out the trailer outside from here on out.
Art, have you got any other thoughts?
I don't. It's kind of hard for me to hear all of the discussion, but and I don't have the. I think they distributed maybe something there that you're looking at that I can't see, but if I'm understanding things correctly, the current orientation of the concessions will be facing the ball fields rather than facing the parking lot, or do I have that the other way around?
It'll be facing the center of the wheel as opposed to facing the outside or the spokes.
Okay,
Reverse, the situation that we're in right now is the concession will be facing the outside of the wheel as opposed to the center.
and the original design was put together so that folks who were visiting the concession stand could still see the ball games.
And I would assume, just given the extra space, that to keep them centrally located and to give more available concrete space for congregation. Larry, Steve, you agree with that?
I think it was more about space for it.
I guess my only comments are, as a board member, I tend to lean towards letting staff, handle the details of the construction project. And as a board member, I feel compelled to support staff's negotiations and decisions. Those are my only comments.
Anybody else? You haven't said much. What's your thoughts?
No, I don't, we don't get so much labor, but I tend to say, leave it as is, and concrete, or more awning. That would be my thought. Same time, I hate to be another month behind. Yeah, I was thinking that staff just, that's exactly what.
All right. Roberts or parliamentary procedure people, do we need to hold a vote? Or no, on this? Is this a vote?
Unless you're going to change the direction of staff, then no.
I would make a request that we get another section in that concrete out the southwest to give us the congregational space at that side in front of the concession.
Okay,
In addition.
okay.
Because that's to me the thing that we're losing. is
Right.
the Physical hard surface space in front of the concession.
What if they don't agree to take on that cost? Is that something we want to do a change order for, or do we?
That would be the topic of future discussion.
Okay,
Navigate that as best we
okay,
can. If they'll bring it back to.
okay, okay. Are we ready to move on to the?
Any objections to that? Yes, no, please.
Okay. Moving on to the pool, and the financial, Carmen's gonna do a report here shortly on all of our finances all the way around. So met with Lamper Nearson and Carruthers a few months or a few weeks ago, feels like a few months. Just touching base, basically they're on track to still open it on Memorial Day weekend. We had to do a change order on the ceiling in the bathhouse. They were under the impression that we were going to stain it, but there were some water spots and some damaged spots. So they're going to cut out those damaged spots and prime it and paint it. Their painter, they say, is the best they've had. So anyway, that's the plan as far as the bathhouse goes. Everything as far as construction is moving along as planned. Ordered the sound system. That should be in at some point here. Ordered starting blocks. I know they were waiting on that to pour concrete. I guess they actually wanted the starting blocks in-house so that they could make sure that all the alignment was as it should be. So that was a additional cost that we took on that wasn't included in the contract. I think I included this in your guys' packet. So as far as, but basically everything's moving as planned. And that's pretty much all I had for now. Any questions on the pool?
Questions?
Yes, that's Carmen's gonna.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. All right, now on to the fun part, unfinished business, community marketing. And one public participation pushing towards Somerville Park. Everybody is interested. There's a letter I put out in the paper today. There's a letter that I had sent to Jimmy last week, along with summaries of the names and anybody that's interested. I guess if you didn't, there's copies over there on the table. They give a little bit of a background of how we got to where we're at right now, and a summary of the 4 names that we had settled on to this point. Speaking directly to the topic of Somerville Park, months ago, and I don't recall the specific meeting offhand, we then decided to not utilize Somerville Park specifically, so that if at some future date, a future park board was interested in corporate sponsorship of the park, we didn't rename it away from Somerville Park. So with that in mind, we did both agree at that point to include, regardless of the name, Admiral Somerville at the end, so that Somerville is perennially recognized as a name about the chance for renaming away from. So that's where we were on that topic. Given 4 members absent tonight, I'm inclined to expect that we won't actually vote to make a decision on the topic tonight. Any discussion on the topic right now?
I wanted to say, we were all in agreement that we saw Berlin there. And one way or another, everybody was not.
I'm looking at the Camden newspaper, the Citizen Observer poll, just to refresh it. As of right now, there are 19 total votes, 13 for Camden Community Park and Sports Complex, held in Somerville, 1 for Cornerstone, 3 for Crossroads, 2 for Rift Hills. Is the when did that go live? This morning. Okay. And I know that there was a previous discussion on Facebook. I'll be honest, I did not get on there and pull that out. I intended to run a Zoom meeting up, so I had to come today.
I did not see it, but I know you were for something. Do you want me to see if I can pull that up?
If you'd like to, feel free to.
I'll see if I can.
I heard you ask me if I could hear you, but I didn't hear what you said before that.
You're waiting on the rest of the numbers to come? Here's about the park name, and what do you think about the park?
Steve, could you maybe repeat what she said?
Can you hear me, Corey?
Yes, I can
Is
hear
that better?
Steve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, they just want to know, do we want to table this until more of the board is present? And what are your current thoughts on the naming? Two-part question.
Two-part question, just for me. Yeah, I'm fine with tabling until we've got more members of the park board here, if that's what we want to do. I think I heard someone ask if there was a Facebook group that had contributed thoughts that we're not able to consider right now. Is somebody pulling those up?
I have that up right here on my phone.
I'm not part of the Facebook group, so I haven't seen those folks' discussions. I don't know if we consider the Facebook group as a formal part of, the folks who really seem to care about the park name, I think showed up and participated in public tonight. I don't know if we consider the Facebook group part of public discussion if no one from that group showed up to represent themselves tonight.
Listener of the Cameron Historical Society said that she had a prior commitment when I talked to her, and that's why she could not be here. So she would have been here.
Was there something in the meeting on there that you suggested about doing passport or something?
I did have one question. It's not the methodology. Essentially, the poll, I did look it up earlier today, just to see if it kind of matched with what we were doing. And there's a few things that are kind of inaccurate about the poll. Mainly that all 4 names listed on the poll are incorrect. It's actually missing a name. I believe it's a Drift Hills name. The poll itself does not mention in the names that it is referring to at Somerville Park. And I think that's very important to recognize that the poll has Somerville Park, but it doesn't recognize in the other names that it's at Somerville Park. So it's kind of a skewed, kind of bent poll where it's not really, I mean, I'm a reporter, I've done polls, I have reviewed polls. It's one of those things where the methodology certainly shows its own hand by not referencing the rest of the parks are at Somerville Park.
And I will also be sure to state the record that we are not intending to treat any poll as a formal vote on the subject. It's simply a chance for community input. And yes, the description of the first Facebook poll basically was an argument for Somerville Park. So in that sense, I agree, it did have a skew to it as opposed to just being here's the name, please vote on them. That being said, I don't know that anything on Facebook exists that is completely impartial. So, and anything on, I mean, even a perfectly impartial online poll is skewed to eliminate the people that are not active users of the online platforms. Right. So, I mean, there's inadequacies in any online only forum, and that I think it just has, all of those have to be taken into consideration as we look at the input that's received.
Would you guys want to, this is Connie Littner's on poll on the Cameron Community Forum, Somerville Park or Somerville Recreation Area, 172 votes. Cameron Community Park, 114 votes. Cornerstone Park, 8 votes. Crossroads, 8 votes. Drift Hills Park, 5 votes. Somerville Crossroads to Cameron Park, 3 votes. Cameron Heritage Park, 1 vote. Railroad Park at Somerville, 1 vote. Waste of Money Park, 1 vote. And that's it.
How many votes did the waste of money get?
1.
The online polling today is certainly. I personally am a big part of Fairfield Park, but I am recognizing I'm likely not going to win. So, any other discussion, otherwise, for a firm absolute decision on March 24th at our regular March meeting. Is that something that we have to vote on to postpone?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, apologize to everybody that was anxiously awaiting a decision.
Does that mean we have another month of campaign?
You do. You do. I expect to see yard signs.
It could happen.
Just make sure you put them in appropriate areas.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to new business, park staff. Is that something-
That's me, yeah. Basically, I just need approval from the park board to hire 2 seasonal part-time staff for the summer. Okay.
I make a motion to hire 2 part-time seasonal staff.
Are you getting all this?
Second to hire 2 seasonal staff for summer help for parks. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0, please do.
Okay.
I believe Carmen is next, financial update.
Sorry, we did not get this information to you in your council packet that went out email yesterday, but was able to get them printed today. On the first page, I would like to note that we have received $60,000 in your park sponsorship funds in actual cash. So I have separated that cash out into its own account. So the funds won't get commingled and spent before we're ready to expend them. No, it's one group has donated 40,000 and another group has done 20. So we still have a miscellaneous bill out for another 20 from FSB Bank. Oh. And the last cash line item down there, 20-1020. We are already starting to accrue for the bond payments that you have upcoming on the 2021 series. So that way, when the bond time for the payment comes around in October, we have the funds set aside to make that payment. And we are advancing payments for the construction of the community park, which will be reimbursed with the future debt service when those construction proceeds are made available after the passage of the 2022 bonds and once they are sold. That being said, City Council will have on the first meeting in March, a resolution to go to market for the 2022 COP debt service. And then there'll be 2 subsequent meetings where they will read an ordinance for full passage of the issuance of the COP debt. And then the debt schedule for construction proceeds to be available is like towards the end of April. So that's finally now in session. That we had financial advisors, legal counsels that had pandemic issues and other extenuating issues that pushed the issuance of these bonds behind by about 4 weeks. So we're catching up there. The other reports here is your regular revenue and expense reports that are what you've seen before. The colored page is a budget estimate page. It's kind of in the middle. And this is just a synopsis, a wild guess target of what the revenues would be and the expenses would be on a future basis. This does not really come into play for the fiscal year we are living in, since we're in the construction period. But this is just a rough estimate as to what revenues and expenses may be like with the expanded park in like fiscal year 2023, when everything would be open. So there's a lot of numbers there. I'm available for questions anytime. The next meeting we have, we can go over it then. But this is just a projection for a future date to kind of channel our thoughts on what you want to do.
Yeah, I like it, we'll take you up on.
That's fine. This is a large step. The next section is the top left-hand corner is COP 2021 balance. And what this section of forms are, so the existing aquatic facility construction bond proceeds. So this first page shows amount financed by the park of the $6.5 million, and then just showing the draws down on those project funds as to what we have left to spend is $4 million. And as of yesterday, the balance due to the contractor was 2.17. And then the remaining available for the project is 1.8. Are you seeing that on your forms? Okay. And then the next page is the balance we have. Yeah, just another detail of the payments to the contractor. The last page is labeled eligible reimbursements. So as of this point in time, we have only drawn from the project funds the main contractor's expenses. We have not drawn for the engineering, design, any other additional fees. We have room to do that, but we just wanted to wait and make sure that we had all of the construction, hard construction fees paid for before we went to those auxiliary items. With these debt series, there is a 2-year like time limit to spend all of the funds. So once the pool's open in May, all these funds do not have to be expended. Once we close the pool season in August, the funds do not all have to be expended. You have time to make sure all of your costs are paid for and you're good to go. So there's a section of reports there for the existing pool debt service, and then the 2022 is just an estimation of what we think that bond amount will be. Yes. And I have asked our bond financial advisor, Charlie Zitnick with DA Davidson. about information on when and where and who general public could contact about purchasing the bonds. I don't have any experience with that side of the transaction. But in case any local people, constituents would like to invest, you know, what their avenues would be to invest.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
On the previous packet, COP 2021 balance,
Uh-huh.
about 10 lines down, on that column, refinance 2020.
In the 2021 COP, the city took advantage of basically three things. The issuance of the new debt for the aquatic facility and our 2012 debt issuance and 2012 was broken up into a 2012A and a 2012B. Those were available for refinancing at a lower rate. So the city of Cameron took advantage of doing the refinancing and the new financing for the aquatic facility in one combined new debt service. So the park is only responsible for the 6.581. The other two funds that were involved with the 2012A and the 2012B was the stormwater fund and the transportation fund. Those two funds are going to pay the same amount of debt that they would prior to the refinancing.
So there's the very top number on this deal. That was not the full park amount.
No. No, and it never was. It was never intended to be the full park amount. So what was in the 2012A on, say, March 31st as 2012A was the same amount balance due for that fund on April 1 as a 2022 issuance. Now, I will say the 2022 issuance for the community park is all park fund. There's none of that combining. We don't like.
Questions for Carmen?
I have one question. I don't know if this yours, but it was on the packet now. On our LWCF grants, both of them were listed at 250,000, I believe. Wasn't one of those supposed to be 300 and something thousand, one third additional?
I think it was 295.
295.
The 2021 amended later. It was 295.
It was at 50/50 match, 295.
Yeah.
Was that on 20 or 2020 or 2021?
2021.
2021, right?
Yeah, when we were reviewing that date, and they asked to go through our costs, we reminded them that costs were going up. So they gave us the opportunity to change our request. So we decided to request more than the maximum.
So that would just be adjusted on the project. Or the credits, I guess.
See if I can do that. Anything else?
Okay, thank you, and we'll get this information in your in the actual electronic packet or wherever the packet's distributed for next meeting.
Would it be possible for me to request electronic copies of what was presented tonight? I apologize, I couldn't be there in person.
Yes, we'll get that information to Steve Gar and he'll get it out to you probably tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, next item on new business, Midwest Food Management update.
I'm here for all.
We met with Midwest Pool Management last week, I believe. And they quickly put together a contract. You guys have it in front of you there. And I think, and it was also in your packet. Basically, it's pretty standard to what they did for us in the 2020 season. The only differences in this contract versus 2020, Carruthers is going to open the pool for us since that's part of their construction contract. So they're going to open the pool. Outside of that, Midwest Pool Management is going to hire all the staff, train all the staff, basically turnkey the whole pool this year, and even go as far as winterizing it at the end of the season. The relationship with Midwest Pool Management's been a good one for us. I think they do an outstanding job and they've been super easy to work with. Yes, yeah, hours are like what we've always had, 1 to 8. No break, just 1 to 8. We'll look at additional fees for any swim lessons and things like that, and all that's on the very back page as far as what they would charge per hour for staff necessary for programming or swim lessons or swim team, those type of things. The maximum base salary on the back is what they will bill us on the front side, and whatever they don't use of those funds will be credited back to us at the end. They're going to handle the concession stand again this season. As of now, we've just committed to going with pre-wrapped everything, still dealing with some COVID things. And I know in the future, we probably will do more with the better concession stand, but just getting, I'm sure they would have liked this contract, January, December earlier. So a little late in the game getting it going, but
And that is because we are a little bit late in the game, and they will have to be hiring lifeguards and that sort of thing. We wanted to get this to the city council early, and because this is the contract with this vendor, the city council will have to approve that. And we have to read it twice because it will be done by ordinance. And we're prepared to do both of those 2 readings at one time on the 7th, which would be Monday, and that will get it out soon. But I don't want to go in front of the city council and have the city council person say, what did the park board say? And I say, well, I haven't seen it yet. I want to be sure that I go and say, you've seen it and you're approved it and you're okay with it. Now, if you need some more time, that's okay. We can let you have more time. You can have a special meeting in a few days or a week. Delay going back to the city council. However, as it stands right now, we would like to ask the council to twice read it on Monday, so it will be completed then, but that is only pending your approval of it, not if you're okay with it. So that's what we're asking for from you tonight.
So the one other year that we had the contract with Midwest Pool was around a non-standard year. Yeah. So I guess there's 2 numbers. There's the management fee and there's the salary budget. Am I correct in the assumption?
That's correct.
The salary budget is pretty much what the salary budget is.
no, the management fee is the standard. That's a flat fee regardless. That doesn't change. The salary fee could change.
I don't think there's any question.
Okay.
If we were to select a different management company, we would still be paying lifeguard salaries, and those numbers would be the same. And the management fee is more of a Midwest Pool versus salaries for lifeguards that have the same hours, right?
Yes.
So with all that said, is glancing through it, it looks like a pretty standard contract. Is it comparable to what we've done in the past?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else have questions, conversations?
I just had one question, like as far as, I don't know how it was done in previous years or whatever, on the management company here or whatever. Was it a daily fee or were there memberships offered
There will be memberships offered
to the city?
to anybody.
Anybody?
Yeah, and we can look at customizing that to where you'll get a discount if you are a City of Cameron resident versus non-City Cameron resident. There are lots of options we can go into as far as that goes. There'll also be daily sales. So
I think, you're gonna have certain people.
Right, right.
yes, yes, and we had to restrict the
Typically, anybody who has
right.
to show up and pay their dues.
We're going to allow.
Because before it was restricting, like you had in that.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, the plan is to let anybody that wants to buy a pass can buy a pass, and
Daily entry fees been set at this point?
no, there are
That brings me to the next question. I think we had asked at the revenue. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
yes.
In that case, I'll make the motion for the park board to recommend to the council that we approve the contract. Move to second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0, motion carries. Moving on to farmers market.
In your packet, what you have is 2021's agreement with the farmers market. I think it's, yeah. That's last year's. They haven't even applied. What? Right, no. What you see is what they applied for last year. I put that on there just so you have a kind of an idea of what they paid, and no, they haven't applied yet. That was just more informational and a copy of the up-to-date contract or agreement. So what you have is last year's info from them and the costs, and then just a copy of the contract that they could fill out of the new one.
Thank you. I wanted to come and advocate on behalf of the farmers market. I don't know who may have been out there last year, but what happened was it was very hot and very uninviting in the parking lot. But that was the way that was because they were there. But then when the council very generously offered to redo the parking lot for the old school, there was a period of several weeks where they were unable to use the park. And so we had asked if we could move over to the McCorkles Park. And it turned out to be absolutely wonderful. And it was wonderful, not just in terms of nice and being shady, but it was as a community event. And what we found was that this was something that would draw people into the community. So it was good for Main Street. It was good for the merchants. It was good for the quick stops and for the gas stations. And so what it appears to me and many of the people that were involved in that was this is more than just somebody renting the park for their child's birthday or something. I don't mean to downplay that, but this was more of a community event and was good for the community. And so I think what what the old school is asking for is maybe, and I would say some kind of maybe a special deal. But what happens is, as a community event, that you could do something which would be for the entire summer. It could be more like a package deal for them that would work for them, that would work for you in terms of making sure you got enough money to maintain it, but then also enough money so that they could encourage people to keep coming and making it bigger and better as a community event, as many communities do. Now, this would be a little bit different, and maybe there's another event that might do it. So you could change the policy from just renting it out by the day to renting it out to what might be community events. I'm not sure what that might be right now, and we don't have to figure it out right now, but maybe we could come back, staff could come back to you with some kind of an adjustment that might work, so you have a plan that rents it out, rents the park out, but also rents it out and maybe just a quarter of it or something on a regular basis for the farmers market. Because I would tell you that I see this as a big event. It's a big event for downtown, and it will get bigger and bigger and better and better. If you got a vision for the future, this is a way of helping the downtown and helping the community. So I would advocate us doing something that might be a little different as a special kind of a event for a group that would be there for many weeks during the summer, and it could be for other groups as well. So you could treat everybody the same, but they're people who have different situations. One situation might be somebody who's renting out for one day, another for the whole season for a community event. And I see this as being a big plus for the community, and one that will continue to develop. So I would suggest we try to do something that might be a little different for them, as opposed to what we might do for other people, and just not handle it in exactly the same way. And I'm happy to answer any questions you've gotten. Anybody who hadn't been over there in the summer in McCorkles Park for a farmer's market, you got to go. Thank you.
Say is, I see absolutely no reason why a standard, if and when we receive an application to rent the park for a farmer's market, I see no reason why it would ever be rejected. Looking at the recurring nature of it and the potential for special accommodations as far as rental fee, and I will have to go back and look at past meeting minutes. Shortly before I was on the board, and those of you that were here then, please speak up, but I know there was a decision made essentially to not give special treatment to anyone, just because then you have to make the choice of who gets special treatment versus who doesn't. That being said, I am perfectly open to looking at adding a different rental category for recurring events that may be more financially acceptable than full rental fee for every individual. I don't think that's anything that we can make a decision on today. I don't see any reason why that, if that type of event is something that may regularly happen, you guys or anyone else, it makes sense to have that option there. Anybody else?
Yeah, the main reason that we, as far as shut off, however you want to say it, was because we were constantly paying for the maintenance, keep the trash, that our park side was doing all the work to do, and then just everybody was taking advantage, absolutely not what they're doing right here with the farmers market. That's not, I don't mean it that way, but it was just like, okay, we keep spending money, that we don't have, everybody else is using. And everyone's doing work. That's how I was finding it. It's just like, we gotta stop, just because of, however, I agree with that, we need to make it clear. We should be charging the same for something like that,
I am never a fan of making a rule and then immediately breaking said rule. I would rather fix the rules if the rules need fixed.
Right.
And stick with the rules. I saw a hand up in the back.
I was just saying, that's why you don't mind if I've experienced farmers market.
Go ahead.
I recall previously these applications were handled by a committee of the park board. And I don't know if we've just disbanded that committee or if we intend to move forward with every application being reviewed by the park board. I don't know what those rules are. To me, again, I'm sorry if I repeat anything that anyone else has said. It's hard to hear all the discussion, but to me, it's just important that we cover costs. The park board can't generate its own money. We have to, we have to be funded by taxpayers and try to use them wisely. So if, whatever our costs are to support this city market, which is obviously a fantastic group, as long as we can, get them to help us make sure the costs are covered, then, we should support their efforts. Do we have any idea, since they're only, I'm understanding maybe only using a quarter of the park, that should be a reduced cost, and it shouldn't cost us as much to support that event as one that would consume all of McCorkle Park. So do we have any idea what the true costs are to support this regular occurring event? Steve, do you have any information that could help us there? I apologize. I really can't hear. I couldn't hear most of that.
You said his recommendation would be that essentially we review the rental policy and see if there's improvements that can be made in this sort of situation. Fair enough. Did you hear that?
I think I heard someone on the staff make a recommendation. I support staff's recommendation.
His recommendation was that we review the rental policy and see if there's improvements that can be made to accommodate this type of situation.
That might be a good idea.
Okay.
I stand by my statement to support staff's recommendation.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure Corey hears me. Hey, Corey, this is Becky. Oh,
Hello,
it's
Becky.
on the computer, huh? Hey, I appreciate you guys letting me come and do this. My farmer's market has been kind of one of the things that I've watched over, gone to quite a bit over the summer, been there after they left, been there on the concrete, not on the concrete, but on the, went and visited them when they were on the new parking lot. And I will tell you, that is a killer for any people to go. I mean, even though I was under a tent, it was unbearable. It was unbearable. And I will also tell you that the group that is heading this is very good to make sure all the park is picked up, because I've been there afterwards. I've also been there as a volunteer, and the restrooms were a god awful mess. And I don't know who it was, BJ and I cleaned them up. And because everybody at the city hall, it was a weekend, couldn't get it done. My creative, I thought, just to throw out there, is that if you guys allow this, then I would expect them to clean them afterwards, so that you don't have to hire anybody to come in and clean them afterwards.
And that's a note I'm making right here to pass along to the staff as they're working on potential updates. Is self-cleaning versus contracting or staffing. Even if it's a deposit-based thing, a refundable deposit, something along those lines. There's certainly options or opportunities for cost savings.
Right, and they have their own insurance, so you won't do them the city. I will tell you, this fall when I went, it was pretty dang treacherous trying to walk in the park with those walnuts that were there. Yeah, I think we need to get some volunteers to kick those things someplace else. But anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Did you guys from the old school have any other comments at this point, since we're on the topic?
Well, I know the one thing that she had mentioned was that how bad the bathrooms were, but that was not before the farmer's market day. That was actually before, I think, the last 4th of July.
It was a casino night.
Maybe that's what it was. And then, so, I mean, if we're expected to clean up after we're done, then they need to be cleaned before we get there. You know what I'm saying? So, because there's a box that's been sitting in the park for over a week now.
They had been vandalized as well. but-
I have no idea where it came from or anything. So stuff's gonna happen in the park, even though it's not an activity.
Yeah.
So we just want to make sure we leave it better than move down.
Yes, every Saturday I would walk through after all the vendors were on it and pick up trash. Make sure.
We'll even furnish the trash bags. I don't know.
Certainly appreciated. So I would say at this point, certainly encourage you to submit an application for this upcoming season. And having an application on file sooner rather than later, maybe to help us figuring out where those options for savings can be. I personally, like I said, I'm not all in, voluntarily breaking the rules that we have already set. So I would rather fix the school system and they say you get an exception. Because at some point then you got to tell somebody you're not as important as the other and it's not making the exception. So I never fix the rules to make exceptions. You guys hold off on that. Let us modify the agreement online, and then before you fill it out, I will put together a draft that will bring to you next. We got a little bit of time.
We start May 16th, 21st, May 21st.
We'll have a modified agreement next week. That way you guys can. Yeah, don't follow the current. So I say the correct. We'll review the next part.
Some farmers market, there's people do it every weekend to the park and provide those pulling water.
Agreed upon.
Okay. I didn't know if you were gonna do some days over there or some days.
There will be activities at our parking lot that's not necessarily farmer's market, but
And if there's a Saturday where a group wants to rent out the whole park, I'm fine with moving us back to the parking lot so that you guys can get the revenue for that.
Yeah.
That day.
And like I said earlier, I see absolutely no reason why an application would be rejected under the current terms as a worst case fallback. I don't assume that we will end up with the same current terms that we have.
well, there really wasn't any terms last year. Drew just said, go ahead and fill this out just so we have a record that you're using.
Okay. Moving on to miscellaneous, circling back to, ball field payment.
Sure, thank you very much. I think you had some comments you were gonna add to us on the ball. We just need some clarification, I think.
So yeah, I'm Steve Rhodes. I had sent the sponsorship packet examples to your sponsorship committee probably 6, 8, 10 months ago. And that was an example from Liberty, who renamed Fountain Bluff Sports Complex to Capital Federal Sports Complex of Liberty. And in that you can play on the McDonald's field, the Landing field, the Conrad's field, And so each field's name was the naming rights for that field only. And that didn't extend, that was for the field, that wasn't for the scoreboard, that wasn't for other signs, that was the name of the field. And I was looking on sort of Life Happening, and they send the games out on an app. So we could play a soccer game at All American Indoor Sports in Lenexa on the Pepsi field. Or I could play at the Compass Mineral Soccer Sporting Complex in Wyandotte County. Or one of the other ones was the Sports Lodge of Independence, the CCR roofing field. So that sponsorship categories, I think, was for the field, and it doesn't affect the name of the complex or the name of the park. But when it's advertised, your child or you will be playing at the Early Family Field or the, what were the other two? BTC Bank Field or Farmer State Bank Field. And so that shows up in all of the apps and everything on where your child is playing. So
That was my understanding.
Yeah.
Was any refer to the sponsor name field
correct.
as well as sign under the scoreboard.
Yes.
As well as sign on the backstop.
Correct.
I do think, just for, again, for clarification, we do intend to also include a number on each field, but we won't be calling any of them field 1, field 2, 3.
Yeah.
And the purpose there just is so something stays static
Yes. So
forever. But yes, all communications will be sponsor name field.
yeah, that's how other communities are doing it. So just yeah.
Steve, I know you had, or somebody that worked on a document, dimensions of signs, was that?
Yeah, what happened was the document that we had said the size of the signs, what the lettering would look like, and all of that, the three sponsors were fine with. It's just that since it said advertising and sponsorship, were not absolutely clear that meant they have to name that field essentially after that. And I know that in talking to one of the representatives of the bank, they're willing to give the money, but they're willing to give the money knowing that was the case. So what I'm going to do is I will go back and look at that sponsorship form we got, and I'll make sure that it's written in such a way that it's very clear on that way, and then I will take it back to them so that they know what it is and bring it back to you. I think based on that, then they'll write the check. I think we got one of them and haven't got two of them, but we'll get that sponsorship name on that, and then they'll give the money.
I would look at that text as being that the sponsor name will be used in all official communications and publications.
Yeah, so there's no question that any of us and with them, that if we're talking about that field, we'll put the name out, it'll be that name, it'll be the, or name to that effect, it'll be the Early Family Field. There won't be any question that that's what it would be. I'm all clear on that. I think they're good for it.
That's great.
Yes.
I don't know if that needs to be explicitly called out that they won't be the sole advertiser. And looking at company signs on the outfield fence.
One question I have on that also is, we have multiple people that are donating for these fields, for sponsorships. How about we like recognizing them? I don't know whether we can do that in a meeting. There was one that came out in the newspaper for Farmer State Bank. I believe, just the way to recognize.
I was only talking to them about the main sponsor after the field. But let's go back and we'll look at the sponsorship forms say, and bring that back to the other people advertising.
Right, and I don't know that that needs to be listed on the form that you're preparing, but more of just a request that maybe we should look at.
Public record.
certainly an invite to the grand opening.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure that we did it for those $20,000 donations.
And once you get that updated, if you'd like to send it over to me for initials or whatever. All right, any other miscellaneous?
Water fountain in Corporal Park, is it? You want to take that out for the winter or is it gone or? All of those, fountains, all parks that move. Okay. All valves will turn on valves. I don't think I ever noticed that. So, I'll just pull it out for the.
Okay, I've been informed by a member of the public that there's a box at the park that's in there for a week.
Our staff is on vacation.
Thank you. Any other miscellaneous? Dory, have you got any miscellaneous?
Nope, I'm good.
All right, we have executive session listed on the agenda. That's not going to be necessary tonight, so we'll move on to motion to adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Dory?
Aye.
I'm in favor, we stand adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.